Welcome everyone to the call. Fantastic. We are so privileged to have you here, Robert Wright, to speak to us. Can we call you Bob?
Please call me Bob. Yes.
Good. We are again very privileged. Every time I hear you speak, learn something new every time, and every time I read your book, I learn something as well. So that's what it's all about, is learning. Learning and growing and doing the things that we can do to help keep ourselves well, which you are very, very skilled at knowing all this. So again, we were really looking forward to having you come to New Zealand for our event. Because of compliance issues with Enagic, this was not able to happen this time, but thank you so much for agreeing to come to New Zealand in March next year. We're looking possibly even at a week, and being able to speak at different events and actually showing you our beautiful country at the same time. His journey obviously goes back from very personal issues with his parents, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to leave that to you. What we'd love to know is why you're on this journey. Also the top things that you would recommend to staying well. If we could also cover things like the 5G as well. That is something of grave concern to all of us as well. So the floor is yours, and thank you again for agreeing to be on this call.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'd like to seize every opportunity I can to share whatever wisdom and knowledge God has given me, and hopefully I imparted a lot of that through the book. The concept of the book was to write something that was understandable. So people would not only know how to deal with cancer, but how to deal with all chronic illness and with prevention, because as we know, prevention is the real cure. And in America, sadly, not too many of us seem to be very interested in prevention, because over here we seem to eat what we want, drink what we want, and when we get a little bit older and discover that we have cancer, then we want the doctor to give us the magic pill so we will be better. And sadly, it doesn't work that way. It's much more complex than that. So my journey started, a lot of years ago, decades and decades ago. Even when I was in college, I was studying, all of the ologies, biology, anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, all of the things that I could to really understand the human body and how it works. And so that's how it kind of started for me. But I was also an athlete, and then eventually a little later on became a distance runner. So I was always trying to determine, how can I be better? How can I run faster and run further? And how can I do it legally, which some people aren't doing anymore, as we know. And so I started to study different foods and supplements. I was studying supplements in the 80s when they were just coming out with supplements, pills in a bottle, and things that were supposed to help you, and forming network marketing companies. And sadly, not many of them were any good at all. I think I could get by with saying that. And it was more just kind of a business opportunity back in those days with people. And they presented many different supplements, which I studied. I took so many of them, they were coming out my ears, and most of them were no good at all. And it was a pretty sad deal, because people were wasting a lot of money on things that really wouldn't help them, because they didn't really understand what they were doing and what they were taking. And the people who were producing them really didn't understand how to do it properly either. Today, however, some of the best products we have ever seen are coming out of network marketing companies. So we really have to sit up and pay attention. And that's where we're finding a lot of the things that we're recommending. Of course, still, again, after we do all of our research and really study the science and the technologies that surround these things. So I studied these for a long period of time, and after a while, my mom got cancer, and she died within a week after she was diagnosed. She went really rapidly. And of course, my mom was a big-time smoker. She smoked 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day and drank 4 or 5 pots of coffee a day. And she thought that she could go to the the grocery store and get a whole bunch of those synthetic, no good for you vitamins and put them in her hand and eat those, and it would balance all of her smoking and coffee drinking out. Of course, life doesn't work that way. And so my mom died really rapidly, and I was there, I was there, and I was actually holding her head in my hands when she took her last breath. And I never forgot that. And it kind of changes you a little bit. And my dad died several years later. It took him 16 years to die after he was diagnosed with cancer. So I saw that end of the spectrum too, and all the drugs and everything that he went through. He lost a kidney to cancer. And then over that 16 years, the cancer was moving to the other kidney. And ultimately he was on dialysis, and that only lasts for so long. And then finally he just gave up. But he was on 24 different drugs 1 year before he died. And the family tried to get him off of those, and we got him down to about 12. But neither the doctor nor himself would allow him to go any lower than that. And I know that those played a part in his demise. And so I started really researching and studying cancer at that point, because I wanted to know what the cancer racket was all about. And I didn't know it was really a racket back then, because we were always told, and have been told since President Nixon issued the National Cancer Act back in 1971, that we were going to find the cure. We were going to throw all the money at it we possibly could. And then every 2 years after that, we heard we're almost there. We just need more money, and a little bit more time. And you know what? How many years ago was that? We're going on 5 decades soon here. And it seems like nothing has changed. And it also seems like not many people seem to be that interested in challenging the status quo of where we are. We march into the hospital, get diagnosed with cancer, and then we proceed to do what the doctor says without question. We go through chemo, we go through radiation, and more we know for a fact that this is what's killing the cancer patients. And so we have kind of, I founded the AACI, International Wellness and Research Center, about 12 years ago, with the idea that we wanted to find out what this was really all about and tell people the truth. Now, people still get to make their own decisions, whatever they want to do. If you want to go do chemotherapy, it's your choice. It's not mine. It's you and your family have to decide what's best for you. But when people have more than one choice, we think that they'll weigh those and they'll make better choices over time. And we found that to be true. And so we started to research and walk cancer backwards and find out where it comes from and what it really and truly is, because it seems even today our doctors really don't know. They're telling us that cancer is genetic. And I can sit here and tell you today, folks, that cancer is not genetic, except in a few cases. Cancer is epigenetic, which means that it's not the genetics which are carved in stone, although you may have a gene that is deformed or something like that. But it's not the anatomy, it's the physiology, those epigenetics. In other words, all the phytochemical reactions and all the hormonal and enzyme and detox reactions that take place in your body. That is what can be changed. And that's what drives cancer, or drives the healing of cancer, and drives that healing to your immune system, which, as we know or should know, is the only thing in the world that will heal your cancer. There's no chemo or radiation. There's no supplement. There's no water. There's no food. Nothing of and in itself can cure cancer, and no one can really say that. But we put together a protocol that actually has the ingredients that we know supports those epigenetic systems that we just talked about, and knows that it will guide the body to health and healing, because that's simply how it works. That's how it's always worked for millennia. We don't need drugs. Well, unless I get in a car accident and I have a very severe injury and the doctor has to put me out and operate on me to save my life, then I want the best drugs money will buy. Yeah. And we know that. So drugs do have a purpose in our lives. So do doctors. I don't mean to malign doctors. We need to have good doctors. Yeah. But doctors can only practice within the realm of what they have studied. And if you go to an oncologist, in his bag of health and healing measures, all he's going to find for cancer are radiation, chemotherapy, and other drugs, and all drugs are chemotherapy, and surgery. That's all your doctor has to help you with cancer. If your doctor were to come up to you and say, you know what, don't listen to all this other stuff. You just need to eat broccoli, and you need to eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables. You need to drink the right water and have supplements. And if he ever did that, he'd lose his job, wouldn't he? And because he has a standard of care, which he has given an oath that he is going to stay within. And if he goes outside of that, oh boy, he or she is in trouble at that point. Excuse me while I have a drink of Coca-Cola here. Not really. This is a good kind of water.
Cheers, Bob.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers. Everyone have a drink.
Everyone have a drink.
Come on.
Here. But to get back to that, again, we're not about disparaging doctors. We want doctors to do well. We want them to do what they do well. We don't want them going off into fields where they don't do well. And cancer and most chronic illness seems to be that way. I mean, if you get a cold or the flu or something, they still want to give you drugs. And drugs are not the answer to most things. And we need to embrace that. We need to understand that. And when we do, magically, we get well and we stay well when we embrace the things that really work within the human body to help us. And so we've really discovered those things, and it took quite a while. And that's why I've taken the book, and after the first edition came out in about 2010, I updated to the second edition in 2012, and then the third edition in 2014 or so. And in 2019, just a few months ago, we came out with the book that Kelly had just showed you, the new fourth edition of Killing Cancer, Not People. And it's the best ever. It's the most complete ever, most up to date. Now, when I say that, I have to confess that it's not completely up to date, even after a few months. And sadly, that's true. But as I explained, we're always doing research and we're always studying. By the time that book needed to go to press, we were studying many other things, but they weren't ready yet. They weren't ready for us to put the stamp on it and put them in the book yet. And as you probably know, we're pretty careful about that because we want the things that we know will help everyone. We can research the science behind them and we can say, well, we know this works in the human body and this is how we know. So we study the studies and we also do our own studies and we look at these things and we say, this works, we know it works. And most importantly to us, I really don't care how it works on lab animals or in the test tube. I want to know how it works in you and in me and everybody else, because that's the old proof in the pudding thing that we talk about. And that's what needs to happen. So when we're convinced that it works in human beings, then we can start forwarding it. And we've discovered a couple new things even since the book came out. And we can touch on those briefly today too. And I want to do that and want to go over the 5 things that we recommend for all cancer patients and everyone with chronic illness. And people have a tendency to think that they see the title of my book and they think, well, it's just a cancer book. And that's really not so. Maybe it should have been titled Killing All Chronic Disease and Not People. Because you look at the formulation that we use, and you better understand gee, if I had heart disease or autoimmune disease, if I had neurodegenerative disease, diabetes, anything else, these same things will work for me, and they will. Sometimes there are some little variations that we can use. If you're a diabetic, we would do a couple other things differently. We would have you lift weights, and people say, lift weights? Because weightlifting is probably the only exercise that takes sugar out of your blood without the use of insulin. And that's major. And most people don't know that or pay attention to it. And that includes doctors. So it's very important. But you have to know how to do it the right way. And we can show you how to do that too. We know that for neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and Lou Gehrig's disease and all of these things which are ravaging our elderly and now are not so elderly in the United States, maybe so in Australia too, I do not know. But we know what is behind these sicknesses and diseases. Henceforth, we know how to go forward and help to ameliorate them. We're not telling you we can cure all of these people now because it's just too soon in the process, but we know what happens to these people nowadays. What happens is they're diagnosed and they're started on different regimens of drugs, and they're scattered and go from one drug to another to another. The patient seems to on the little burst, and then it deteriorates more and more and more. Another drug is introduced and another one, and the patient just slides down and down, and we don't want to see that anymore. We know that there's just a couple great things that you can do that are simple that could help immeasurably. Of course, you need to drink the right kind of water, and we know that. We need to take the right kind of supplements. But you know, if you just eat virgin coconut oil, we have seen these people take 3 tablespoons of virgin coconut oil in a day, and those people that were shuffling instead of walking and barely talking and you couldn't understand them are now walking normally and talking so you can understand them. And folks, it's not just because it's coconut oil. It's the science behind the coconut oil and the medium chain triglycerides that become food for the brain. Your brain is breaking down, the neurons are breaking down because they have no food anymore. They're not getting the glucose, but now we can give them new food. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these other things. This is just a way of telling you that we know pretty much how to deal with most of these things today. It's not just cancer, although we do still focus on cancer. So, you know, whether it's any of those things and almost anything, today I thought I'd heard of everything, but I still have people call me and say, I've got this, and it's a 26-letter word. And I thought I knew most of them, but this is a new one because the doctors and the scientists are always creating new names for these new sicknesses. And, you know, they're not really all diseases at all. They're just variations of maybe some other things. And of course, people want to own their disease or sickness. Not me, but many people do. You know, I've got rhabdomyosarcoma, and they go, I need to be treated differently. You know, I need to know what you would suggest for that. And I'll look at them and I'll go, well, the same thing that I would recommend to this guy with colon cancer or brain cancer. And most of the time that's it. And I don't want to minimize the concern that that patient has for what they have, because we never want to do that. And we always want to give the patient hope, no matter what they have. And we do that. They leave with hope as a minimum every time we counsel with them, but they leave with a protocol at the same time that has, we believe, the best possible chance to help them with what they have. Even those who have undergone round after round after round of chemo and radiation, and they're just so sick from those that they can't hardly stand up. We have seen people that have been told they have only 48 hours to live. They're almost dead. We've seen them come back to life with the right protocols. That's not to say all of them will, because some of them have been so overtreated and are so sick that their immune systems have failed them. And if they don't have an immune system, and if they can't eat, they can't drink, you just can't live. And but sadly, if they'd have come to us sometime earlier, there would have been more hope. People go to their doctors and get a 90-day diagnosis. Their doctor says, you have stage 4 cancer. You have 90 days to live. There's nothing we or anyone else can do for you. Go home and get your affairs in order. And of course, we're doctor trained, so we do what the doctor says, right? So many of them just go home, they get their affairs in order, and they die. If they come to us and say, the doctor says I have 90 days to live, we say, oh, good, you have that much time? Let's get to work. And on many occasions, these people can make their way back because now they're doing the right things, the things that will help to restore those epigenetic systems that we talked about and restore their immune system, which in turn will knock out the cancer. We now have things that will kill cancer stem cells. And that's what doctors should be focused on, but they're not. They're focused on the ordinary daughter cells, the tumors. Doctors are fascinated with tumors, right? They think if we start reducing the size of this tumor, the patient's getting well. Well, that's a good thing to do, but that's not a true statement at all, because they're not killing the cancer stem cells. They're killing the daughter cells. The stem cells are the ones that really multiply and divide and create new cells, new cancer cells, and push the cancer through inflammation throughout the body. That's what's called metastatic cancer. Allopathic medicine has no answer for almost any cancer, but especially for metastatic cancer. And it should be a crime, punishable by serious jail time for a doctor, an oncologist, to give any stage 4 cancer person radiation and chemotherapy, because they will just make their last days miserable. They will take away any quality of life that they have left. But we know things that cure these stem cells now. Turmeric. Doesn't Enagic have a real good turmeric called Ukon? Turmeric, though, is it's kind of a wild card. If you just sprinkle turmeric, you know, the golden turmeric on your salad and eat it, and if there's no fats involved there, then it's not going to help you, and it's going to fight you. And so we need to make sure we take the right kinds of turmeric and take it with oils. I like Ukon because it's got 4 or 5 different oils in it, and that makes it 10 times more bioavailable and effective in the body. Turmeric is fat soluble. Unless there's fat with it, it's not going to work for you. So it needs to have fat with it. And also, when we put piperine with it, piperine is 5% of black pepper. When we put that with it, it makes it 1,000 to 2,000 times more bioavailable in the body. Don't you want to do that? I would think so. And it crosses the blood-brain barrier. And so it is food for the brain too, and helps immeasurably those people with neurodegenerative diseases again, something else. But it will help in almost everything, because turmeric is probably the most studied plant or herb in the world now. And we know how many things it does if we're dealing with inflammation. And we need to understand that inflammation drives everything, all sickness and disease caused by the over-acidity of the human body. Those who work with the Enagic company already know that. And so we've got to deal with these things. But turmeric is just a fantastic herb, plant, whatever you want to call it. And it can do wondrous things for us, but we need to take it the right way, and we need to take a lot of it. And so it's one of the things that we, in our supplement phase of our 5 stages, which our 5 stages are going to 7 pretty soon, and you'll be the first to learn about that. We'll go over it in a minute here. Are we out of time yet? Okay. But turmeric is part of the supplement protocol that we talk about. So let's get to that 5-step protocol if you're ready for that.
Absolutely.
We talk about the healing process for chronic disease and of the human body kind of falling into a 5-step process. And I want to go over that and then tell you 2 other things that we're looking at right now. So we're going to move it to 7 steps.
Nice.
First thing is you got to do the right diet. And of course, if you're a cancer patient undergoing chemotherapy and you ask your doctor, can I drink this 7-Up? Can I eat this ice cream cone? They'll say, oh, sure, it doesn't matter what you eat. That's the first place that doctors fall down, believing that it really doesn't matter what you eat. What you eat matters completely, because you can go through all of the great protocols that history has known for cancer, and if you're not going to get on a right diet, then your chance of healing goes down exponentially. Well, unless you're a sheep shearer, I probably told you this story from South Dakota, who did almost everything wrong for food, but he used a supplement and he just overpowered his body with it, and he healed. And he healed gloriously. It was just fantastic. But I wouldn't recommend this to anyone else. He said, oh yeah, I was eating burgers and French fries and I was drinking milkshakes, and his wife later told me, yeah, and he was drinking beer too. And so he did a lot of things wrong, but he had so much of one thing that was right that it kind of offset what he was doing. I don't recommend that to anyone. Diet is fundamental and it's important, and you can get the specifics of that in the book. There's do's and don'ts. Of course, we got to lay off sugar. And if we don't, we're doomed. It's that simple. We're learning now that 50 years ago, the sugar industry knew about that. They knew how deadly their product was. And this, you'll see this in the news coming out now shortly. It's just being exposed now. Sugar is the white death, folks. And not only does it feed cancer, but every time you have, let's say you drink a 12-ounce soda pop, it has about 9 teaspoons of sugar in it. That amount of sugar in one 12-ounce soda will effectively shut down almost 50% of your immune system for 4 hours. That's on top of the fact that it's feeding cancer. You can't afford that when you're sick. You simply cannot. And how that works is that when you look at the molecular structure of sugar, it looks almost identical to vitamin C. Now, your body loves vitamin C and needs it, right? Especially your white blood cells, which are your defense system and fight cancer and everything else. But they see that sugar coming and they mistake it for vitamin C. And they gobble it up and they just go flat on their faces for 4 hours before they can recover. So your immune system is very debilitated by sugar. And of course, you become a diabetic with sugar. You break down your blood vessels. It's not cholesterol why you get heart disease or you get hardening of the arteries. It's sugar. Sugar drives that process. And doctors seemingly do not know this yet. And yet it's a fact and it's been proven. And still we're taking the Lipitor because we think we have too much cholesterol. What a racket that is, $1 billion industry. You'd be better not to have any Lipitor, none at all, and utilize some other things that will really and truly help you. So sugar's a racket, but we need to be on the right diet. I'm not going to dive deep into that either because there's just, you could go really deep with that. But do read about it in the book. Get a copy of the book and read about it. You'll be stunned maybe at some of the things I recommend and some I don't. And it's pretty interesting. But the good thing to note in this is there are things to eat. Because when people look at the cancer diet, they'll say there's nothing to eat. And I'll say, well, you're right if you're talking about, French fries. Folks, they're not a vegetable, despite what you think, because they're made from potatoes. But yeah, there's no sugar in it. There's no pie in it. There's no milkshakes. There's no milk, period, because milk is bad for you. Most people don't know that. They think milk helps to build your bodies 12 ways. Milk is poison to the human body. And the protein in milk, casein is 70% of the protein. It's related to cancer directly. So we need to have caution. So food, fundamental. The number 2 thing, it's the number 1 thing we recommend besides the diet. We think the diet is fundamental. It's number 1. But the number 1 thing after that is a certain kind of water you can drink, right? Yale, you holding something up there? I can't hear you. Yeah. Okay. But we drink Kangen water, and we do it here. I do it in spades, and I do a lot of it. And I do it because it's the right thing to do. I don't sell Kangen water machines. ACI doesn't sell them. The Enagic company pays us nothing to say what we say about Kangen water, but we do it because it's the right thing to do, and because we have seen literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people helped with this product. We don't tell anyone that it cures anything. No one can say that. And that includes all the Enagic distributors. No one can say that it cures anything, cancer or anything else. But again, we can dive deep and look at the research on this water and the scientific proof that shows what it does. And this is important when we look at live blood and we look at the rouleau in our blood where our blood cells, red blood cells, stick together. And when you drink this Kangen water, you can see live blood 20 minutes later. The red blood cells are separated. They're carrying oxygen again. Their negative charge is back and they're repelling each other. And they are helping us dramatically. See, that's scientific proof. We can go in and look at the cell voltage. Human beings need a cell voltage from minus 25 to minus 50 millivolts just naturally to stay healthy. When you're sick, you need way more than that to heal your cells, get your cells functioning properly, and get them to a point where they can divide and be healthy again, and heal. But people, when they're sick, their cell voltage is low, and we've seen people who have acidic, inflamed bodies because of all the wrong foods they eat and the wrong things that they drink, and they become very ill, and their cell voltage goes down. And if they don't bring that cell voltage back up, they're going to stay sick. That's what happens. So what's the quickest way to bring the cell voltage up? It used to be taking good antioxidants, good things like vitamin C and green tea, and eat a lot of vegetables. Those are still very good things. They will help with your negative charge. But they only have a negative charge of minus 75 to minus 100, but they're still good. The fastest way now to raise that cell voltage is drinking Kangen water that is minus 400 to minus 800 millivolts. That will bring that cell voltage back up faster than anything else. That's good for you. Folks, that's science. That's not hyperbole, that's science. And we look at many other things. We look at the ability of the water to hydrate, you know, and the microclustering of the water, and how that works. And so we know, and the alkalinity, of course, the alkalinity is very important to acidic bodies, and we know that scientifically again. So we go about looking at the water scientifically, and what does it actually do in the body? Again, we're back to that. And these are the things that it does. And you know what? We can prove that. And it is proven in studies.
Yep.
So this isn't something we're making up. And when we say that it will help in the process of healing these epigenetic systems, and we can define them, these are the things that drive genes, and especially gene mutations, to upregulate or downregulate. This is proven science, folks, proven science. So we can prove that. And so that's what we try to do across the board. And we can do that with Kangen water, so we have no problem forwarding it, although we don't say it heals anything. But we know when we connect the dots in the body, that plays a pivotal part in helping to bring those epigenetic systems in the human immune system to healing. There's no doubt about that. And you know what? No one can refute that. No one can come to you and say, you can't say that. And I'll say, well, of course I can say that because I have the science to back it up. So this is not hard stuff, and it's not rocket science either. But it's simple things that we can know, whether it's the Kangen water or other supplements. And we can know these things, and we could present it in such a way that people will start, like I said, putting the dots together, a dot here and one here and one here and one here, and then you draw the straight line, and where does it lead? To healing the epigenetic systems in the human immune system. That's where it leads. No one can argue with you, simply. The third thing is the right supplementation. And this is critical, you know, especially with cancer people and people who are struggling with chronic illness. And it's essential to try and get the maximum amount of nutrition in your body in a minimal package. Because when we're sick, we really don't eat that much, or we struggle to eat at times. Especially cancer patients, they want to go to comfort food. They want to go back to the foods that make them comfortable. And you know what? Those are usually the wrong foods. Pie makes you comfortable. Cake makes you comfortable. Cookies makes you comfortable. Milk and cookies, ice cream. Let's go to that comfortable food. Meat and potatoes, I'm comfortable. And I understand why they do it, because they're in pain, they're struggling, they're suffering. They want some comfort somewhere, and that's where they go. Sadly, it's the wrong place to go. They need to go where the nutrition lies. And when we can get the right kind of nutrition, it does wonders for us. We use Relive. We recommend the Relive products highly because they're just saturated with nutrition. You cannot sit down and eat 5 pounds of broccoli and 5 pounds of Brussels sprouts and 5 pounds of spinach and 5 pounds of carrots all day long. You can't do that, but you know what? You need that kind of nutrition, especially when you're ill. So you can do it by different methodologies, and Relive is one of them. Here's where I get to one of the new things that we're going to talk about.
Exciting.
Can you see this?
Yep.
It says nutrition. Can you see that? It has my name on it. You know why that is? That's because this was made just for me, not for anyone else in the world, just for me. I gave my DNA, swabs of my cheeks. The company that does this went in and looked at 16 of my genes and 18 different what we call SNPs. The SNPs are the variants in your genes. Many of your genes have these variants. And they are responsible for up and down regulating genes, for helping to get your body functioning correctly and better. And so wouldn't it be great if we could identify these, the ones that are actionable within our body, and we could put together a formulation that addressed each one of these. And I can tell you, I want to show you one more thing here if I can dig it up. We can do exactly that now. Can you see this? This is a 37-page report on my DNA, mine, no one else's, based on these 16 actionable genes. By actionable, we mean we can actually put together protocols that will make a difference for these variants on these genes. It's more complex than that, but we're going to stop right there at that point. You don't need to know more right now. And so the company that reads this and puts it together can say, well, we know that the SNP on this gene, we know what it means, and we know the food, whether it's folate or vitamin C or another vitamin B or something that will make the difference here that you're not getting enough of. They put that into your nutrition, and they can actually utilize nutrients they have to put together 400 million different permutations based on your DNA. So I can truly say that this is my nutrition. It's no one else's, no one else in the world. We think this is a big deal. And it is a big deal because now we can identify specifically what your body, what your genes say that your deficiencies are, and we can meet them. Otherwise, it's kind of a crapshoot, isn't it? Certainly, we can find supplements that will do us some good, and some of them will do us a lot of good. There's no question about it. But wouldn't it be neat to get something that's just yours based on your requirements alone and not someone else's? Because you may have genes that don't have variants. So some of those things that are in mine don't need to be in yours. And instead we can put more of something that you really need in yours. And so that's just an overview of what we're looking at. But this is really a fantastic deal. The fourth thing that we talk about is the right detoxification. And I hope that all of you have a copy of the book, and if you don't, that you'll get one, the new 4th edition, because in chapter 9, we talk about PIOH, P-I-O-H, and that's precision intestinal oxidative hydrotoning. Of course, there's many things we can do for detox. We can do coffee enemas, which are really good for detoxification, because not only can you detoxify your colon, but it trips a portal, if it's done correctly, that goes to the liver, and you can dump your liver. And that's very important for people that are very toxic. We can eat bentonite clay and charcoal capsules that bind to heavy metals in our body. There's a lot of different things we can do for detox that are good for us. And we've seen cancer patients that seem to be getting better and better and better, but then they stop. And they stop because they're too toxic, and they need to get rid of the toxins in their body before they can continue to heal. So it's very important. So read about PIOH. The downside of PIOH is only available in about 2 places in the United States now, and 1 in Canada, and none in Australia at this point. We're trying to change that. We're working on it. But people come from all over North America to do this because it is so incredibly important. And I have had 36 or 37 PIOH sessions now. So read about it in the book. And then if you have questions, or if you're traveling to the United States and want to seek this out, let me know, and I'll certainly let you know where you can have this done. But it's the best form of detox in the world, bar none, bar none. The 5th thing is exercise. Now, of course, everyone exercises, or everyone maybe fibs a little bit and says they exercise. And they do in the United States, they do these surveys all the time. And oh yes, 78, 80% of Americans are exercising today, 3 times a week. They're doing this or that. And I just burst out laughing because I know it's not true. I mean, I'm 69 years old and I'm out on my runs in my town here, and I don't see anybody else running, and very few people walking. And you go to the gyms and the gyms are pretty much empty. And, you know, exercise is not parking in the handicapped space in front of the grocery store and walking inside. It's not lifting the fork to your mouth and getting your, you know, that's not exercise. And so we really need to move our bodies. We need to move our cells. We need to move our muscles and our connective tissues. We need to do these things. And there are many ways. You folks already know this, many ways to do this. You can walk, you can run, you can jog, you can swim, you can do yoga, you can do hot yoga, you can do all kinds of things that will help you. It depends on what you're comfortable with. We found something that everyone can do. It's called whole body vibration. Whole body vibration is a machine. It looks kind of like a running machine, except it's a plate. It's not a long band on it. It's just a plate that you stand on. It's got the full electronics on it. You can adjust how much you shake, vibrate, how fast you go. I have 2 of these machines and I get on them all the time. I even do push-ups on them. You can do all kinds of exercises on them if you want to. And it is said that 10 minutes on one of these machines is like an hour in the gym, and anyone can do it. And especially people as they get older and they struggle to exercise, this helps with their muscles. It helps with their joints. It helps strengthen their bones. It helps with their balance. It helps get every cell in your body breathing. If I get it on it at 16.5 megahertz, which I do, and then I go up to 30 and then to 40, at 16.5, it means every cell in my body, every muscle, every ligament is vibrating at 16.5 times a second. So all those cells are breathing, the muscles and the tendons are being worked. You're building strength in your body. You're building bone and bone density in your body. You're oxygenating your body because your cells are breathing. They're breathing and then they're exhaling all the crud that's coming out, and they're taking the oxygen, the molecular oxygen and hydrogen. Is that important? Yes, it is. And we get that obviously through Kangen water. They're sucking that in at that point. And so this is good. So whole body vibration is great for us. I'm looking at my time right now. Okay, so we're thinking of adding 2 new things. And one is this. Can everybody see this? These are stem cell patches. Stem cells are the hot thing today with everyone, right? Everybody wants stem cells, but gee, I got to go get cord cells or my own cells extracted and then modified and put back in my body, and hopefully it works, and hopefully I have $5,000 or $10,000 every time I want to do that to get it done. Sometimes it works. Sometimes people see great benefits with it, but it's still in the exploratory phase. It's not proven science down the line yet as far as using your own autologous stem cells, your own out of your fat or your bone marrow, or using cord cells that come from the umbilical cords of babies, not the babies themselves, but the cords which they throw away. They harvest cells from those. But it doesn't always work. And besides, you're getting cells from someone else. These aren't yours. Are they going to be compatible with you? What if you could use your own stem cells? Gee. What if you could make them active again? If you're my age, 69, by the time you get 60, your stem cells are pretty much dormant. They're 90% dormant. And they're what keep you young. They're what heal you. They can basically differentiate into any cells in your body. And so, again, I'm not going to go deep on this, but I can tell you that I've got one right on the back of my neck right now. And they are absolutely stunningly doing miraculous things for people. And they don't cost anything nearly what it would cost you to do your own stem cells and hope it works. We're going to use your own stem cells, but we're going to activate what you have. And we have a way to do that. And we can go into that science more later because we don't have enough time now. The last thing is this would become number 6 then, of course. And our smart dots, you know, for EMF, we're talking about, Kelly, for 5G, we have smart dots here. We've got bio dots here. You've got it. You've got your band, Kelly.
I've got the band. I've got the clips, and yeah, fabulous.
I've got my band. You can see that I've got it on the back of my telephone.
Yeah.
Don't give your kids phones, folks. Yeah. Don't give your kids phones. They're smaller and their skulls are thinner. That radiation just blasts them. We're seeing more glioblastomas and other brain cancer in children than ever before. Don't do that. And here's a way to protect ourselves, to protect everyone. Put these on your routers. Put them on your Wi-Fi. Anything that's carrying Wi-Fi, that's radiation. The new 5G is coming in, as Kelly had mentioned, and it's going to be deadly to us. I don't know if we really and truly understand that. They're going to be this is a millimeter wave, what they call a millimeter wave. And it's a short wave, but it goes right through you. Yeah. And so they have to continually boost it. They're going to shoot it down from new satellites. They're putting 20,000 new satellites in the next 2 years up in the sky. You're not going to be able to go anywhere and get away from it. Nowhere. And they need to boost those waves all the time. So on every building in every city, you're going to see a booster, and it's going to be pulsing that millimeter wave at you. If you've got smart meters on your house now, they're pulsing that radiation at you. It's everywhere. We wonder why we're sick today. And here I am trying to help people with cancer, and I'm sitting here wondering, can we really avoid cancer any longer? And that's a pretty bold statement. And I know that we can, but it takes work, because we are constantly being bombarded with radiation and chemicals, all forms of these. And this goes to our food, chemicals in our food, and in our cleaning things, and in our soaps and our shampoos, fluoride and chlorine in our water and our toothpaste. We're just saturated with it. So how do we escape? Well, we need to get on these 5 protocols that we talked about, but we actually need to be able to harmonize the radiation, and that's what this is all about. You have a biofield around you. And most of the devices out there, you have to be very careful what you get in these harmonizing things, because most of them will deal with the electrical side of it, but not the other magnetic radiation side of it. And so what happens when they concentrate the other kinds of dots that aren't from this company, when they concentrate on stopping that electric radiation, they try and block it. And what happens is all of the other magnetic radiation that is going to bombard you is going to go around it. And it's going to be concentrated on you, more concentrated. It's not a good deal. So if you like this technology and you're aware and you want to help protect yourself, make sure you get the right dots, because it's very, very important. And not just dots, we have pyramids now that are about this big that you can cover a whole, there it is, right there. And they have the biodots on them. They will cover a whole floor in your house and maybe more. Yeah. And so,
Bob, could I just quickly ask, I've got an EMF meter here that, that we're able to test and stuff. Absolutely fantastic. I had a friend come without their mobile phone, without anything on it, and the scale just went off the radar. And then we put a sticker on the back, Biodot, and it came down even more. But then we realised Gail was near her and had a band on, and it was almost nil, nil.
Yes.
There was nothing there, and we were just like, wow. And so my house, we tested, and I know it's got a lot to do with this, because this does 900 meters around your whole, and it's like hardly reading at all, which is absolutely fantastic. But could you tell me what, obviously you've looked into different ones, because I know there's quite a few people that I know that have brought different kinds of EMF, from China or from different places. Would you recommend these ones as being one of the top outfits?
This is the top outfit, and the reason I know this is because I've studied them, but someone I really trust, Dr. Elizabeth Plord, who is on our advisory board and does just tons and tons of studies. She's well known in the industry as being an expert on this, and an expert on sunscreens too, and all kinds of biohazards. And she has a testimony on this, which is just incredible. Part of it's in my book. And so she has Are we okay? I had something come up on my screen here. Okay.
Yeah.
But she is the one that she and her husband are really backing this specific brand here. And it is by far the best that we have been able to find. I would not put my trust in any others at this point. We are actually beginning to, we have joined with them in their company, and these will be loaded onto our website very shortly within the next week or two. So you can go right through our website and procure them at that point. Right now, if you need to buy them today, you just go through emffreedom.com. That's where they are. That's where you got yours, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've got them also. So if people in New Zealand, Australia want to get hold of me, I've got my shop. I've got a Shopify. So it's just kbbhubshop.com, and
Good.
you can go and purchase. And I will continue to get them.
Yep.
I really like this too, for people that, you know, you've got the pendants too that you can wear.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Gail's got one on. Can you see on her? Yeah. You know, and even traveling back from the States when we picked them up, I was really quite, you know, going through the airports and stuff. I thought, well, you know, it's, yeah, just keeping protected, but the clips are really great too. Just
Yes.
put them on, you know, onto your key ring or when you're out and about, because obviously we can protect ourselves inside the house a lot more than when we can go out, if this ends up rolling out. Yeah.
Yeah. And these are going to be.
Sorry, could you? Oh, I've got quite a few of the buyers in too, because I don't know if you've seen, they're a medical device, certified in Germany. Have you heard of these ones?
Yeah, these are medical devices in Europe too.
Europe,
Ones
yeah.
that we have, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that I've heard of the Biozins. No.
Okay. Yeah, we've done the test with the frequency meters too, so I've got
Okay,
those as
good,
well.
good. Well, it's everyone who's listening or joining in today, do go to Kelly and get these, because it's going to be so important as we move forward and as we make the leap to 5G. It's important today. It was important with the third generation, the 3G. More important today, and it'll be more important tomorrow. So don't wait on this. You need to protect yourself and your family. And these have almost an unlimited lifetime too. I mean, if you take your band here off and on a million times, ultimately the band will break. But when I break a band, I take what's left right here. I've got one of them in my pocket right here. So I carry that around too. It's still good. I just can't use it. Well, it's in my pocket here, but I just don't use it as a band, but it's still good to use. So we need to protect ourselves. So it's very important. Put them on your phone, in your house, on your router, on anything that is electromagnetic radiation, on your phones especially. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions? I mean, we got a few minutes left, I guess.
Yeah. Has anyone got any questions here? I know just earlier on, we had a question here as we're going to, I just don't want to stop your flow. It was so good. So good. So people want to get in touch with you with protocols or have you know, questions. I know you're such a busy man, but you've been amazing in getting back when we've needed to as well. How can they get hold of you, Bob?
Well, this is the email that comes directly to me. It's info@americanaci.org. And that comes directly to me. And also, if you go to our website, which just is americanaci.org, up on the top right, it says contact us. And that one comes directly to me too. So if you have a question, or if you want to have a serious concern or problem or sickness or disease and want to counsel, it doesn't cost you anything. Just get a hold of me and we'll try and set up a time to do that.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm just looking. I do have a question, Bob, because it's something, obviously the cannabis, the CBD oil and that, really want to ask about this, because over here in New Zealand, we can't get the CBD, but we can get hemp oil. Now, I'm just curious the differences and what they do and
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I dealt with that in, for those of you who haven't got to it yet, it's in the new chapter 12 in my book. It's a whole new chapter, and it's on marijuana, oil, hemp oil, smoking marijuana, the whole thing. Now, I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and I was down in San Francisco in the late 60s and early 70s, where all the hippies were back then. So you know, we saw everyone smoking marijuana. Of course, could I say I've ever done it? I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment of the United States on that one. But I was down at Haight-Ashbury in early 70s, but all the hippies had moved and the flower children had moved up to Grant Street in San Francisco. So I went up there too. It was real ethereal to be up in there. But, you know, marijuana back then was different than marijuana is today, because back then it had the THC, which is the tetrahydrocannabinol, which is the psychoactive part of marijuana. And that's what all the government agencies seem to be afraid of right now, is was only at about 3 to 4, maybe 5%. But they're making marijuanas now with up to 30% THC. And it's just literally bombing people's brains out. And that's why I don't recommend marijuana. I don't recommend smoking anything, because you're going to put chemicals in your body if you smoke anything. But I don't like the long-term use of the THC, although some people have got benefits with many different things, autism and cancer, and I see it. And so I can't tell people not to do it, nor would I. It's their choice. But it's just a long-term effect. When you look at it, it will affect your brain, and it will affect your heart and some of your other organs. And so I would be concerned about that. But you can get the same benefits from CBD, cannabidiol. Cannabidiol, there's some cannabidiol in marijuana, but it's largely in hemp oil. You can, if you get a good source of CBD, it has to have less than 0.3% THC, which means it has no THC. And to be legal in the United States, it has to have that. So we can buy hemp oil anywhere here, and we do. We buy it from, there's a lot of places coming out, and there's a lot of good products. But, you know, there's a lot of junk products too, because everyone can do it now. So be careful. Don't buy gummy bears. But there's a lot of other good things that you can get. And we recommend the Canaway Company out of San Diego, California, because they were the first. We studied them, discovered them to be the purest, and to have some of the best products that we have ever seen. That's not to say that other companies don't have good products, because some of them do. But it's just who we chose. We tell people to choose what they want, but do a similar study. Make sure you're getting what you're paying for and something that's really good for you, because if you get the right CBD and even the right THC, but again, we don't really recommend that because of the long-term effects. But if you get the right CBD, it does just wonderful things for the body, for that that endocannabinoid system within your body. We all have it. And it helps. One of the main things it does is it helps to stabilize your body and bring you into homeostasis. So it's harmonizing your body. And that, in effect, too, is restoring the epigenetic systems of your body that we talk about. So it does just miraculous things for people. We can't say it heals anyone again, like we don't say about anything. But there's a lot of people out there that would argue with us when they see what's happened to their autistic children, and people with neurodegenerative diseases and cancer, and many things that they use the CBD oil for. And I'll just put it this way, it seems to help them dramatically. Oil is rich in CBD. And, you know, there's about, when we talk about cannabinoids, we're not, the cannabis plant is hemp is a cannabis plant,
Yes.
and marijuana is a cannabis plant. And there's over 100 different cannabinoids. And I have another one here, beta-caryophyllene, which comes from a tree in South America, 60% cannabinoid. It's great, but most people don't know most of the cannabinoids. But hemp is rich in cannabidiol, and that's CBD. And that's where the majority of it is extracted. Now, the marijuana plant will have some CBD as well, but it's rich in THC.
Yeah.
And so they can extract either one. But the hemp seems to have, when it's done properly, and again, you have to have a really good, clean, pure extraction process. And so you don't want to refine oils that much. You just want to make sure that they're pure. And so we look at what the extraction process is and how they do it. And that's not to say that you can't grow your own hemp and extract the oils from it, because we know that hemp is an industrial product too. I mean, The Constitution of the United States, written in 1776, was written on hemp paper, and we know that. And we can make clothes out of hemp, and we can, you know, do many different things. And they're using hemp for foods now and all kinds of things. So the difference would be, to answer your question, Gail, is the purity of it,
Yeah.
and what it might have the capability to do for you. And just, do you know what the impurities might be in it as well? And it's just, will it be beneficial for you, I guess? Without really knowing what's in it or doing the test, I guess we couldn't really say for sure. It may be wonderful for you. If you know, grow your own, do your own. That used to be the thing back in the 60s. People say, well, just grow your own, you know?
That's it. That's the one. Keeping it real, keeping it natural. All good. Okay. So,
Did I say one more thing? If anyone listening today does not have a Kangen water machine, that's the first thing you should do. I don't know if I emphasize that enough, but I said outside of the right food, that's the number one thing we recommended. So go get a Kangen water machine, because that is the thing that is going to really affect, because of that science we talked about, is really going to affect the initial changes that we have seen anyway. Again, not saying it heals anything, but it does have that capability, and that's why we all drink it. So get the Kangen water machine first.
absolutely. It's a great, yeah, perfect start. Thank you so much. We're just so honoured to have you here, Robert Wright. We could just listen to you on, and we will be doing that in March next year, which I'm just so thankful, because we'd like full day with you, you know, because you've just got so much to share, and I know that's going to be amazing. Everyone that's on the call, if you can't, you know, come to the event, because we'll be promoting Robert there as well. Also, I've got the books. Anyone want, you know, this is the least I can do for you to try and help with your organisation, because the royalties go to Robert Wright. So I will always have these in stock for you. And, you know, as a lot of people on this call are Enagic distributors, this is the number one thing that I always make sure at a demonstration that I have got, because it's just absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much. We've really enjoyed this call, and I've learned again. And like I say, we're very, very grateful, and I'm sure we'll connect again soon. But thank you everyone for jumping on. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll catch up with you later.